Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. So in today's video I welcome back another incredible guest, Andrew Craig, a friend of mine, and we're going to be talking about everything investing, especially looking forward into 2022. The last year has brought many retail investors to the market, some good, some bad, so we're going to discuss all topics and covering off biotech towards the end, so do stick around. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I have the pleasure of welcoming Andrew Craig back to my channel. So thank you so much for joining me again.
Very nice to be back again.
Yeah, thank you. And today we're going to talk about some awesome topics, slightly different angle from what we spoke about last time, because a lot has been revealed in 2021 when it comes to the investment world. We're going to be talking about sort of an ultimate guide to investing, the biotech, which I know you know a lot about, and also the stock market and what to look out for in 2022. So, Andrew, to kick this off, this year in 2021, it's brought a lot of retail investors to the market through crypto and through the hype of meme stocks. And now it seems that everyone seems to be an expert when it comes to the stock market. 16, 17, 18-year-olds all giving advice. Watching TikTok. How do we filter out and how do we really get stuck into the stock market in the right way?
So before I answer that, the first thing I'm going to say as a sort of preemptive apology, which I probably shouldn't apologise for, is so I often talk about the fact that I repeat myself a lot. So, you know, we were talking earlier, you're going to ask me some questions. I'm always a bit concerned that if anybody watched our interviews from 6 months ago, a lot of the answers will be similar. But there's a Latin phrase, repetitio mater studorum, which basically means repetition is the mother of learning, or like practice makes perfect. And so I guess in some ways I don't apologise for the fact that some of the things I'm going to say now in this interview I've said before. And hopefully there's enough of a kind of new audience who'll hear them for the first time. But I guess the corollary to that is they are very important things. And you ask a really important question, because at the moment, you know, we're on this sort of crest of a wave of social media and interest in finance, and the fact that people are interested in finance is a great thing. You know, I've been sort of banging my head against a brick wall for 10 years since I first published my first book, basically trying to bring that message to people that, you know, this is for everyone, this isn't just for rich people, and, you know, trying to democratize an understanding of financial markets and how, you know, unimpeachably life-changing it is for everyone, no matter how much. And one of our other big messages is, you know, kind of no matter how much you earn. You know, this idea that the stock market or financial markets is for rich people is a really, really unhelpful and I think old-fashioned idea, and it's just not true anymore, right? It's the correlation and the causality run the other way, which is that if you learn about stock markets and financial markets, you're more likely to be a rich person. There's a whole ton of evidence that that's the case, and not just me as a sort of privileged city boy telling people that. It's genuinely true, and it's quite easy to evidence. So, but set against that, and this has been a big concern of ours for, you know, quite some years now. Not just, I mean, you talk about 21, but it's been bubbling away for a while, which is that, you know, access to information has never been easier or cheaper. You know, through TikTok and YouTube and all the different social platforms. But therefore, you know, and the barriers to entry for people to be curating stuff and delivering content have never been lower. But what that means is there's an awful lot of very bad information out there. And I guess if I was going to give you a sort of pat answer as to what, you know, what's a prism you can look through to sort of differentiate between whether you're going down the wrong avenue looking at bad information or whether you're sort of on the right track. And one of the ways we sort of articulate that, or we think about that, is that basically if you are looking to learn about investing, you're probably on the right track, and if you're looking to learn about trading, you're very likely to be on the wrong track. And, you know, to unpack that a bit, what is investing? Well, it's long run. It's something you do from the minute you start earning money for the whole of your life until you get to a point. And by the way, if you start this early enough in your life, you can get to this point when you're still quite young. You don't have to be like 70 years old. But if you learn about the fundamentals of investment, you know, which haven't really changed in 2 centuries, there's a really good chance you can become quite wealthy. And it's a very slow, conservative, boring, you know, the tortoise wins the race, right? Now, it doesn't, I always say that to get quite good at that is probably no harder than learning how to drive a car. So it's one of these great societal blind spots we have that, like, everyone thinks it's normal to learn how to drive a car, but everyone looks at you like you've grown an extra head if you suggest that actually it's no harder to learn about the stock market. You know, you must be mad. That's for rich people, that's really complicated. It's not. These basics are not that hard. And that learning that stuff is life-changing. Whereas becoming a good trader is really hard. To do it properly and to do it effectively and to do it protecting yourself against the really big crash years. And the sad thing is, what is this? This must be the third or maybe the fourth time in my 23-year career in financial services where it's just the same again.
Yeah.
Except it's worse. So I was there in .com 99 2000. Everybody thought that everything always went up, right? And people were buying .com companies, and people were making vast amounts of money. And it's the old thing about reminiscence of a stockbroker where, was it Jesse Livermore, whoever wrote it back in the 20s, and the 1929 Great Crash said that the minute you get into an elevator and the lift attendant in the lift gives you a stock tip, that the market's getting quite toppy.
Yeah.
And you were telling me a story about people in your gym. We're all experiencing it, right? So we're definitely in that kind of environment, which is tragic. And so to go back to my fundamental point is, and the way to sort of be confident that that's not you, and you're not going to get completely creamed by that there's very, very likely to be a very large stock market crash at some point, because history rhymes, right? And whenever markets get stretched like this, valuations get stretched. Tesla is now worth more than the 9 next biggest companies combined. That's probably a sign that the market is very overvalued. And the idea that it's different this time. Oh yeah, but Tesla's going to change the world and deliver. I mean, I'm not saying that Tesla's a short. I'm just saying that there are so many signs that we're at or near the top of markets. And so, teenagers watching TikTok and then getting on trading platforms and looking at crypto with a trading mentality are almost, they're going to be people who get really, really seriously hurt.
Yeah.
And when I say hurt, I don't just mean losing a few quid. One of the things that I think is often forgotten, and without wanting to sound like a hyperbolic, what's the word, purveyor of messages of doom, or sort of an old, boring, curmudgeonly idiot who's telling young people they should be more careful. But suicide rates in 99 2000 and 07, 08, 09 in the financial crisis skyrocketed all over the developed world. So it's freighted with that much consequence, right? It's not just, it's a bit rubbish and I'll lose a few quid. People lose livelihoods, people lose life savings. And it's all completely avoidable. So labour the point again, I'll go back to the investing versus trading. If what you're doing is investing, which is something sensible, conservative, regular each month with a certain percentage of your salary, with a view to getting to a point where you have, hopefully high 6 figures or low 7 figures on a 20 plus year view, you're probably going to be okay. If your whole worldview and your whole approach means that's the approach you're taking, and you've read a couple of books on investment, you'll probably be okay. If you are buying the latest altcoin on Tuesday and trying to sell it the following Tuesday, or trying to wing around indices and currencies, you probably won't, because you really, I always say you need at least an A-level's worth of knowledge to be any good at trading, and to be properly good and do it properly, you probably need more like a degree's worth of knowledge. And the other thing, the final thing I'll say about that is, why is investing better than trading, or what's problematic about trading? Well, investing, as I said, is no harder than learning how to drive a car, right? But truly, to do it actually pretty well and make a really big difference to your life. Trading, as I've said, is really hard. Trading also basically is very time consuming. So, if you're 25 and whatever your career is, you're an architect, you're a journalist, you're a software programmer, whatever it is that you're trying to do with your life, if you're spending hours and hours and hours of your life sitting on crypto chat channels trying to work out which altcoin to buy this week, you are not becoming sufficiently skilled at your day job. And I really mean that. And ultimately, most people, and we'll probably come on to this, most people are more likely to become wealthy through what they do, rather than the shot to the moon of being the next person to have a crypto that goes up 1,000,000%, right? That's a 1 in a million or 1 in 100 million likelihood that you're going to be that person. That's like winning the lottery, truly. Whereas becoming slowly better at your job and having a career, and perhaps then learning how to float your company in the stock market, or just build value in your company, is a much higher probability way of becoming wealthy. And I think that's one of the other tragedies as I look at this at the moment, is so many people are wasting so much time on this stuff. And then the final point to say is, and again it's another rookie mistake, is to trade successfully. All the great traders, and we're talking about hedge fund people who run hundreds of millions or billions, right? One of the biggest insights about trading is actually, if you've got a lot of capital, you don't have to take much risk in order to make large amounts of absolute return. If you're trading £1 million, 1% is 10 grand. So if you make 1%, you made 10 grand. If you're trading 10 grand, obviously it's a very different outcome. And so trading, not only is trading difficult and time consuming, it's only really effective in absolute terms if you sort of risk adjust it. If you're not taking inappropriate amounts of risk, which means you will get hosed the next time there's a crash, then you really need pretty significant amounts of money to make it worth your while. And so one of the biggest rookie mistakes that kind of really winds me up at the moment is seeing somebody who's like in their 20s who might have 2 grand of total savings. Good on them for having 2 grand of savings at 25 or 27 or whatever after their first few years of work, or 8 grand or whatever it is, going straight to trading, and even worse, paying somebody 2 or 3 grand of their 5 or 8 or 6 grand to teach them how to make supernormal returns. Because, and again, I'm like the old curmudgeonly old man, but mark my words, 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, it's almost gilt-edged guaranteed that would have been a very bad idea versus actually learning about investment. So that was a very long answer.
It was a brilliant answer. I mean, there's so much to take away, and there are things I want to just pick out from that before we move on. It's great that there's been retail investors and more investors brought to the market. So we can all agree that that's good. Everyone's become more aware about finance.
An interest in finance is great. That's right.
But at the same time, there is a danger element to it because it is so accessible. Anyone can download an app.
Yeah.
And like you just said, there's been an increase in suicide, and people are putting themselves in financial situation. And especially when we look at meme stocks, we know of people that have refinanced their house because their friend down the pub, or they've read an article on Reddit saying that AMC is going to spike another 30, 40%, or even double, which has been put out there. And I found the dangerous part is they've become so bullish because rather than diversifying, using an ETF, an index fund, whatever it might be, the slow and boring way, but the way that won't lead to suicide, is people go all in and they are blinded by any other opportunities or even seeing outside. And that's the danger element. And like you said, something I'd like to finish on there really is that people are investing small amounts, getting £5,000, whatever it might be.
Or even 50 or 500 quid,
yeah.
Which for somebody who's 22 or 19 is serious money.
And that's the thing. I think nowadays you open up an app. I can open up Coinbase or eToro, and you see all these colourful charts, and you read an article saying this is the next stock, or this is, and people just go buy. It's so there's no checklist almost to qualify you as an investor.
But also, and the key thing is in the crypto space specifically, which is a massive failure. It's not regulated. So the FCA, who regulate, bonds, shares, like all the main financial markets, pensions and ISAs, and the Financial Conduct Authority have a thing they call the perimeter, and it's basically the stuff within the perimeter is under their auspices and they regulate. And if it's outside the perimeter, it's not their concern. And crypto has, it's gradually changing. But how many years is it since the Bitcoin protocol? Was it 08 it was launched, or 09? I can't remember.
09,
how many? What's that? 13, 14 years. Since this became a nascent thing, and they still aren't properly regulating it. And the thing about that for young, impressionable, there's a guy in our community who was the Personal Finance Teacher of the Year, Interactive Investor Personal Finance Teacher of the Year last year, called Darren Collins, who teaches in a secondary school in Sittingbourne. He's done so much great work and got quite a lot of press recently talking about TikTok, 14, 15-year-olds, and the battle he has in his secondary school with kids doing exactly what he said. And the problem is that, so if I'm regulated by the FCA, and if I want to go out and talk about, and we'll come on to this probably in the next 15 minutes or whatever, you asked me about biotech, I'm going to be very careful about what I say, and I can't just sit here going, you should buy whatever. Yeah. There are very strict rules. I can go to prison. I can get really heavily fined. I can go to prison, I can have my business taken away from me, I can be shut down forever and have to go and retrain as a whatever, airline pilot, who knows, whatever else I might do. Don't know where that came from. I was reaching something.
That's what Andrew wants to do.
Yeah, exactly. But whereas in the crypto space, anybody can, with impunity, just get in front of a camera and tell people, there's this amazing new, altcoin that's come out, and you should do this and you should do that, with no ramifications whatsoever. I have to keep records of my phone calls. I have to keep all my paperwork for 7 years. I can have the FCA bang on my door any day of the week and ask me or my board or any of my colleagues all sorts of questions. I have to make sure they're trained. It's really, really expensive, time-consuming, difficult, onerous, and quite rightly so that people integrating with us and have that imprimatur of hopefully having some sort of vague protection. But if I'm in the crypto world, None of the above. No record of what was said. I see people in the crypto world all the time saying, "Oh, I said this," when they clearly didn't, and everybody in the group knows they're lying. You see crypto groups set up which are set up especially to criticise the fact that that given crypto person, look at this is what they said on this day and this is what they said on the other day, and they're 180 degrees the opposite. You can get away with that in the crypto world.
But that's scary though, isn't it? The fact that you can have a 16, 17, 18-year-old, and you can even see that they're at school saying about a certain coin. Yeah. And the thing is, I think we're exposed to too many overnight millionaires.
Yeah.
That's
the problem. I was thinking this the other day, what's that amazing trade? I don't know the name of the altcoin, but somebody went from like $10,000 to $5.7 billion.
XRP maybe?
No. Or is it maybe it's is it Dogecoin or
Dogecoin?
Dogecoin,
yeah.
I think it might have been Dogecoin, but anyway. But it's like so many things in life. I mean, I think last time we spoke, I talked about the press focusing 99% of their attention on the 1% of terrible things that happen in the world, right? So weirdly enough, they tend to do the opposite in financial markets because again, it's like stuff that's dramatic sells, right? Nobody wants to read boring stories. So what tends to happen naturally with press coverage is that the unremarkable majority, even if it could be a 99% majority, isn't something that they're particularly interested in. They're interested in the remarkable minority, which will be a 0.1 or a 1% thing. So, on front pages that will be death, war, famine,
Everything negative.
Everything negative.
Yeah.
But in finance, on the financial pages, it will. Well, to be fair, they do that as well because you'll hear nothing about the stock market for 9 years, and the only time it'll ever be on the front cover of the Times is there's a massive stock market crash. So the UK stock market will have put on a £1 trillion of value over 15 years, and then we'll lose 100 billion in a big crash, and everyone will focus on the 100 billion, not the trillion that has happened in the last 15 years, which I've railed against in the past. But in the crypto space, particularly sort of disingenuous people who are trying to sell you stuff, of course they're going to. Again, I can't choose a period of time of my performance and say, look how well we did in that 3-month period, or that we're not allowed to do that. We have to very strict rules. Whereas a crypto person, it's the old football thing of you only sing when you're winning, right?
Yeah.
And but what's the story that's not told? Firstly, the one person who's become a millionaire overnight is splattered all over the press and talked about, and look at this guy or girl who's done this. But the 99,000 other people who have
lost,
or who are sort of flat or up and down and haven't really made any progress at all. And not only so, the ones who've gone sideways, what they've lost is their time, because ultimately time is your most precious asset. And if you want to become skilled and actually have as I said earlier, a much higher probability of having a great life and being successful and satisfied and having meaning in your life, you have to put the yards in, right? And if you're wasting God knows how many hours each week, month, whatever, sitting in front of crypto stuff, you are not becoming better at whatever your main kind of life journey could be.
Yeah.
You are not reading books, which I would say is a far more valuable way of using your time than trading crypto, in all seriousness.
Yeah.
Right? In the medium to long run. And also probability weighted for your likelihood of succeeding. And when I say succeeding, I also mean being happy.
Yeah.
Right? That is a much more fulfilling journey than even if you become a millionaire with crypto. But as you say, and I wrote about this not that long ago, I wrote a piece called When is 7.5% better than 75%, which is about risk-adjusted returns. And the trouble is, point-to-point statements about Bitcoin went from here to here. They only tell the story about people who've owned it all the way through that journey, right? And the reality is that the more volatile an asset is, the more that psychology affects you, fear and greed. And people are hardwired psychologically to buy high, fear of missing out. Everyone else is becoming a millionaire. It's $62,000 or whatever Bitcoin is today. And by the way, even I look at the Bitcoin price every day.
Yeah.
And well, maybe. So it could go to 100,000. I might as well have a few, whatever. But I'm doing that. If I do that, I'm doing it with a very small amount of my money, and I'm not really spending very much time thinking about it. It's just, it's broadly there and as a potential idea. But the untold story is the person who bought at 56,000 a few months ago, and it went back down to 29,000, and they now have to remortgage their house.
Yeah.
And there are statistically, because the biggest winners in any big asset class are the whales and the sophisticated investors, right? The institutions out there in the world, the billionaires, the Winklevoss twins, right? They're more like they have an information edge, right? So for every one of them who's become a billionaire, there are thousands of people who have no structure, have no system, are just doing on the whim of a mate told them something in the pub. They've then they've not told their wife, which we've all heard those stories, or their girlfriend or whatever. They've put up money that they don't have.
They've kept it quiet.
Yeah, and then they've panicked because it's gone from 60,000 back down to 29,000, which happened in I don't know May, I can't remember, June, whenever it was. And they've panicked and not hodled or whatever.
So education is the huge part here.
Yeah, and seeing, I think the other problem with crypto is, in my first book, I described 10 asset classes, right? Which, basically, the stock market, which has been around for 200 years, the bond market's been around for 400 years, precious metals have been around for 5,000 years. Crypto is one of those 10. It's one of the 10. And what really annoys me at the moment is that for most people under the age of probably 35, it's the only one they think about.
Yeah.
And they have this totally incorrect idea that, well, it's the only one you can make money in. Because the other thing that really, really annoys me is this idea that the system's rigged and it's like rich people control the stock market. It's complete bollocks. Total nonsense.
So what would you say? So as we sort of wrap up here, if someone was watching this thinking, okay, I've taken that on board, I'm going to educate myself, I might not listen to my mate down the pub, which you shouldn't, you should make your own decisions. What would be your top tips for someone getting involved into the stock market and actually understanding that it's investing, you're not a trader, so there's this confusion around that. But what are as we sort of come to a close, what are your final tips on someone going into the new year in investing?
I'll be very self-serving and say they could go and read. So on our website, plainenglishfinance.com, there's the opinion section, there's a big button, click on opinion. My most recent email is called First Principles, which basically outlines a lot of what I'm saying in sort of one place. But also on the website, obviously there's my book. Like the whole point of my book was I took 300 or whatever books on finance from the last 2 centuries and tried to distill it into, our business is called Plain English Finance, to try and put it in plain English. And I think that's why it's been successful and has lots of reviews and, people have sent me lots of nice emails and messages every week. So, you could start with mine. It doesn't have to be mine. But I think the simplest answer, which is my answer to most things actually, fitness, health, whatever, happiness, success, is read and and read books. On our website, I've written quite a lot about sort of the best investment books of all time. But if you just go on Amazon and type in investment and read a couple, there's a book by a guy called Morgan Housel called The Psychology of Money, which is an alternative to mine. It's sold like 1 million copies now. It's absolutely brilliant about that. Because actually, just on that point, one of the points he makes and others like him have made is the most important factor in your success in investment and trading as well as your personal psychology, your personal circumstances. Like I said earlier, how much capital you have, what you're going to need the capital for, how old you are. These are all, a 30-year-old making decisions about finance should be making completely different decisions to a 60-year-old. Yeah. And a 16-year-old should be making completely different to a 30-year-old, right? So a book like The Psychology of Money treats that. It's basically like, okay, so, if you really think objectively about how the role that your mental game, your psychology plays, and how old you are. So I guess that sorry, another very long rambling answer, but the basic thing is just read 2 or 3 really good books on investment. Like Bibles of investment. I don't want to describe my book as a Bible, but it's very educate. Yeah, exactly, and not from TikTok, YouTube, or Facebook crypto groups. Like you need to read 1 or 2 300-page books.
Yeah,
which takes a few hours. It's like I always say, it takes a lot less time than it takes to learn to drive a car, right?
Really learn about it. Yeah,
and that's all you need.
And what I want to finish on, just the last 2 minutes before we wrap up, is can you just give us a bit of information around perhaps why we should also be aware of biotech? What does that space hold and why is it something we might want to look at?
So I'm in the process of I've got to deliver a manuscript to my publisher, the working title of which is The Future is Biotech. And the basic thesis is that the last 30 years has been like tech 2.0 in the internet, right? So what are $5 trillion plus companies in the world? They're all, what are they? Apple, Amazon, Alphabet, IBM. Is IBM there? But you get it, right? They're all tech companies. And they've created so much value in the last 20 years because we all have iPhones and we'll use the internet, and the internet's revolutionised supply chains. And my argument is if you actually I've been in the biotech industry for 6.5 years as a specialist biotech investment banker. And I think that the next raft of $1 trillion plus companies are going to be biotech companies.
Right.
Because ultimately, economic value is created by solving human problems. So Apple has solved some amazing human problems. So I mean, to a certain extent, it has Facebook. And we can always argue the toss about social media networks. Amazon, best distribution in the world. Amazing logistics, reducing prices on 1 billion goods for everyone in the world. Phenomenal, right? Real value. The next things that humanity needs to sort out, though, are energy production, like clean energy, cancer, dementia, diabetes, agricultural crop production. India still wastes 50% of its crop. Holland is about 50 times more effective than any developing world country in terms of productivity from its agriculture. Now, the reason so it's not just, the point is biotech isn't just about healthcare. Like, it's most obviously about healthcare. Biotech is basically using organisms, if you like, to create drugs that might cure cancer. But it's also about energy production. It's basically, but the biotech industry, in my opinion, is going to solve and deliver massive value because it's going to solve a lot of the problems that we confront at the moment. And I'm writing a book on it at the moment, so
amazing.
There'll be more to come on specific.
It's a space to watch. So thank you so much for that. Awesome. Well, thank you for all joining us. There were some huge points there, and thank you for coming back, Andrew. It's been awesome. And until the next time, we'll see you all very soon.